What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Brainwashed to be Broke, the show where we expose all the lies, all the beliefs, all the stories that we've been taught since our young age and what is truly possible, right? Today, we are here with another amazing guest. His name is Mossman. I'm so pumped to have him here. He is executive coach, leadership speaker, and author from Kanoi, Hawaii, with 18 years of experience helping leaders build healthy, high-performing teams. I'm sorry, correction, over 18 years. So, without further ado, I'm super pumped to have him here. Brother, what is your fame to claim? For those who don't know you, what is your fame to claim? What people know you for?
Mm. I guess it depends on who we ask, right, Adam? But I think that's such a great question to open up with. And thank you so much for having me on your show today. I really enjoy the episodes and the guests you bring on, and it's really cool to be on this side of the camera or table today to just open up today's discussion. If there's a claim to fame, I think shoot, that's such a great question to open up. I think right now it's that I'm a believer that there's still good out there, and I think
Hmm.
and I think there is. Why I'll start with that, and it might be general, but let me pull some things together. I think there's a common thread. It's that the more you go through life, the more you go through business, the more you get some years behind you, you're exposed to more out there, and it's easy to start to think, why try again? I've tried it before, it didn't work, or this isn't, and it can be defeating eventually. That's what I see a lot of with the people that I work with. It's like their last level of success was their plateau. It's like they were done. And it's really changing that thinking. Like that was just a milestone, and that's setting you up for the next level and the next step. And I think when I work with people like that, there's just this hunger in life. There's just belief. There's just hope that things can get better no matter what.
Why? Where this belief actually coming from? Have you ever think about it?
You know, yeah, I think there's a foundational component of belief, right? I think it's the times that we're at rock bottom that we're
Hmm.
gonna really test what we're standing on, right? It's
Yeah,
we don't know how much we can trust our belief or our
yeah,
foundation until it's tested. I'm a God-fearing man. I jump into the Bible every single day, so that's really my foundation, and that's where I find. So when life is throwing it's currents at you, and you're taking some hits, that foundation really lasts the test of time.
Ooh, okay. So you believe in Jesus? Is
Yeah,
that perfect? Okay. And this is really interesting. Okay, let me ask you this question because
yeah.
most of the people they usually jump into let's dive right into business type of topics like what you do like
Mm.
coaching and so on and this type of things. But I would love to ask a deeper question when it comes to what is your like true driving source, right? Like what is your true driving source? Because like is it God? Because like you said that you believe in God, right? Like what is the driving source behind your success? Is it
That,
God?
that,
Is it business? Is it freedom? Is it like what is it for you?
yeah, I think it was. So if I go back just in my life, I think a lot of times I even learn. I always tell people I learned professional development first. I learned like these
Mhm.
principles about time management and how to be responsible and delegation and vision casting
Yeah.
and business. All that I've in my work I was exposed to that. And what I think was the great connecting factor to me was like I was going through a lot of things and following the examples of the people that was placed in front of me. And I'm a big believer, I'm not going to knock it until I try it. So even though it
Mm-hmm.
didn't sound right at first, I'm like, you know what? They're in that position, let me try it out. And it just kept collapsing, to be honest with you, Adam. Like every time, it's almost like the closer I got to the corner office, the more I seen all the dust that was swept under the rug, and the more I seen all the pain that was really hidden. And I'm just, eventually I was just like, I don't know if I want that. That's not what I want. And what happened was eventually when I started to when I gave my life to Jesus, and I started to dive into the Bible, every healthy principle, and I'll share this, every healthy principle always goes back to the foundation of God's word. And that's where I was
Mm-hmm.
like, wow, it's interesting. It's like I thought I was learning that first, But when I come back, there was this almost full circle moment. So,
Mhm.
I'm definitely not I wouldn't say I know everything about it. I think I'm curious about it. I think I fully understand that what I've been given, I've been given much. I've been given an opportunity. I mean, I really give thanks about the breath in my lungs every single morning I wake up. And I think there's something about gratitude that when you're fully gratitude, you can't stay still. You can't just be so
Mhm.
grateful that you do nothing.
Mhm.
Like a heart full of gratitude prompts you to take action. You actually start to seek
Ooh.
out, where can I serve, where can I help, what can I learn, not from a place that you are empty and you needing to fill, but almost as a place that it just moves your feet, if that makes any sense. So I don't
Yeah.
know if I think it'll make sense for some people listening, and for those that are not. I always tell people, if there's one thing that makes sense, take action on. The rest of the stuff, there's other people out there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really interesting what I see after having so many, conversation and so on. Like
Mm,
the most successful people are usually like extremely in alignment with God. I don't
mm.
know why is that, but does can you see that too, like in your life, like when based on what you do and so on.
100%. I mean, I even think when it comes financially, like I would follow a lot of financial plans to the T. I'm a big, like I said, I don't want to knock it till I try it. So I'll take a class and I'll follow it like every step by step. And then the results are different. I'm like, what happened? And when I go back to these biblical principles about, being a steward and not an owner, and just being and like, okay, you know what? Like, how do I plant these in here and then just let the
Mm,
harvest happen when it needs to, and trust that it's in the right
yeah.
place. And then, lead off of discernment rather than, going out there and trying to push my way through. I think I was very ambitious when I was younger. And there's nothing wrong with ambition, but it's what's driving you, right? What is driving you?
100%.
And
Yeah.
a lot of times it was, I know for myself initially, it was a lack of, I didn't feel smart enough. I'm going to segue into this really quickly. Open up asking about, so my full name is Jordan Bo Po'okala Mossman.
Hmm.
Every name is a given name. Po'okala is a Hawaiian name, and the
Yep.
meaning of Po'okala is foremost, champion, superior. And when I learned that definition at a young age, I was not making the team, failing classes, not making it into certain schools I wanted to get in. So I felt just disconnect. I felt like,
Wow.
how can I be called excellent and
Hmm.
I can't be excellent? And I felt like, so I almost felt like I guess a fraud or imposter. We give it those names today, and I didn't know what it was back then, but I just didn't feel aligned with it. So I went with Jordan because a lot of people got that easier than Po'okala. But later in my life, I realized that, excellence isn't about being the best, better than others. It's about giving your best in that moment. And sometimes that's
Ooh.
200%, sometimes that's 20%. And I got to be okay with that, right? We got to be okay that sometimes my best day, my best today is 20%. But we let others brainwash us into thinking every day you have to be at a 200%. And that's this old hustle mentality that is really contributing to this unhealthy leadership component of burnout and mental health and divorce and addiction and all of this stuff that I see leaders that are very successful, but behind the scenes, what they're really leaning on. They're leaning
Yeah.
on a lot of these addictions that just perk them up, go out there, perform. It's a performance industry. And after you perform, you come back and once again, it's a slow fade. And it breaks my heart, to be honest. So I thought after seeing it and then doing the work on myself and then actually going ahead and changing things, that's a way I can serve in the community.
Love it. How did you change this type of mindset, like because you basically told us that you are not worthy of this name and so on. Like how do you define
Mm,
being
mm.
worth of something? Like how do you because there is a it's really interesting because now, like, have you been already at that time, believe in Jesus, because he's already, like, he's telling you who you are. You, like, we are worthy of just being here in the planet, right?
1,000%. I think I'm still even making the connection. Naturally, my mind wants to go towards. If you have, I'm sure your audience is some note takers, and I always say note takers are difference makers. So for those of you that are trying to capture some things, one thing that really stuck out to me was I know I was really trying to my mind naturally goes to what is my strengths. Like when you ask that
Hmm.
question, Adam, I'm thinking like, what is the strengths I had to change my mindset? Like what did I have to do or what was my practical, and that's naturally how I want to answer that.
Yeah.
But going through, if I pause for a moment and I think, okay, you know what, my strengths will get me so far, my surrender will be my fulfillment. Like it's
Uh-huh.
really in the moment that I had to surrender and say, okay, you know what, God, I took me this far, but in Romans it talks about having to renew your mind, right, from the patterns of this world. Like you have to it starts. So it's interesting. Like that caught my eye when I first started to read. It's like, huh, interesting. Even the Bible says, renew your mind. It's
Yeah.
renewing your thinking of what we thought was success, what we thought we had to do, what we thought was our identity, and if Jesus did what he did for us on the cross, who am I to allow anyone else to dictate, my worthiness other than God?
Yeah. Yeah. It's this is it. Like when you said that, the way that you described basically, or basically, what was the word, um that you said that you would be telling yourself that you are actually like worthy of this name. Isn't it that actually like the actual programming that was instilled in us since our young age, to actually think about us and questioning this, like, because how would you even get into conclusion that you are not worthy, right? This is like, or
And,
literally thinking that
right,
I
right.
going
And
to
what?
be
And
worthy if I gonna accomplish some certain amount of things and so on, right? This is the core programming that is happening there. Everybody trying to find the validation of somebody or something, and this type of things, right? Which is wrong, right?
it is. It is. It's broken. And I think there's even a part that I've come to find that it might not even be bad to not be worthy. Like I don't, you know what I mean? Like my worthiness is because of Jesus' righteousness, not because of I perform so well or I follow the rules so long, right? Right? Because the minute I think that happens, what happens the next day? I fail, right? My my humanness comes into play, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I just thought I was achieving it, and then once again, I realize why I need that. Why, so I think the question a lot of times is, why do we even desire to be that worthy? It's like, just
Mm.
realizing that, I'm worthy because of, his righteousness. But at the same time, I think if we eliminate a lot of that, that's some of the noise, because I'll even start to ask the question, why does that matter? Why does it
Hmm.
matter if I'm worthy or not, depending on if I'm going to serve someone else?
Yeah.
Because the only reason it would matter is if I'm in a bartering situation, if I'm giving
Ooh.
to get, and then
Yeah.
I got to check my heart and say, well, why don't you just give? Why don't you just help someone? Why don't you just
Hmm.
serve? But if there's a seed of me that wants to get something still, then there's still something that is not fulfilled. And I think what happens even with this seed and harvest component is there is the harvest is in hindsight. And I say that
Hmm.
because a lot of the lessons we give up too quick. I always tell people, it's like you didn't stay in it long enough. Stay in it,
Ooh.
stay with it every day. Like just be resilient, persevere. And I didn't change that thinking overnight. It took me years. I didn't even think about the moment for decades until someone asked, hey, how come you don't introduce yourself as Paul Keller? And I thought, and I started to give my surface answers. And then I really looked inside and I said, you know what? I just didn't feel like, I didn't feel Paul Keller. I didn't feel like that was my name. But then in the
Wow.
moment of actually saying that, there was a new thought that came and said, well, I'm redefining excellence now,
Mm.
right? So I think in that hindsight also, by us not giving up, just giving it time, eventually we'll start to look at things that once maybe tried to frame us in a much different way.
Oh yeah. 100%. Like when, be it's so sad to see like how many people are basically, programmed a way that we are basically, if we fail,
Mm.
we basically decreasing our status, and like we feel bad because we failed and so on. But like if you think about it, to learn pretty much anything, it was done by failing actually, right? Like there is not such a thing as a failure or as a failing, right?
Hmm.
Like I don't believe in failing.
Mm-hmm.
I had to literally rewind my brain also, like, on those type of things, like, all, like, I had to go through everything what most people do, like, literally has to go through, because, like, I've been, e- even, like, it's not far long ago, right, that I've been still, like, so scared to go in front of camera and talk to people like you, and, like, having this type of conversation, because just I've been just not feeling that I'm smart enough, I'm not good enough, and this type of thoughts, because like, since our young age, since this, like, the whole schooling system is
Mm-hmm.
basically designed that way, instead of you doing mistakes and being able to actually, um just correct the way that you done something and take it like a literally a data, like something that, okay, this didn't work this way, so let's tweak it a little bit, let's do different, like, let's put the leg from different side, maybe now I'm not gonna fall, like, let's do, you know what I mean? This is so, like, it's so simple, like, anyway, like, I'm so passionate about this type of topic, so either
I love
way,
it.
when it comes to, because I know that you wrote a book, right? You wrote a
Mm-hmm.
book, you are basically huge in, like, coaching and leadership and so on. I would love to know and bring a little bit more awareness about, like, who
Mm-hmm.
you, like, are when it comes to that, and how, like, what do you actually do inside, like, with your clients, and what is, like, the why you even wrote the book, what is it all about?
Absolutely. I love to dive into that. And if I could, just closing that thought on what you were sharing about, when you talk about failure and you talk about fear, I think it's interesting. Sometimes we do a quick kind of icebreaker, but it gives us a good idea of who's in the room. And it's just word
Right.
association, right? So I'll shout out a word and then they're saying thumbs up or thumbs down. Like, is it good or is it bad? And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times people, naturally associate failure as a negative, right? Or let's
Mm-hmm.
even say fear as a negative. But if you look at it, just like how you're saying exactly, failure actually gives me actual data, not imagined data, right? A lot of times
Right.
we fail in our mind so much, but we never even tried something. So
Yeah.
the actual data is so much more helpful. Try something, fail. Try something, fail. Try something, fail. That's actually a way to kind of get an edge ahead of others. And it's not to be ahead or compete, but we get actual data. And then we can say, you know what, I tried it, and based on actual data, not imagined data, this is what I've learned, and this is what I've
Yeah.
learned. And that learning curve for those that are willing to do that are much shorter. But it's the idea of flipping our association on when we think of failure, is that a positive or a negative or fear? And I'll say it quickly, like, I got into public speaking because when I realized, like, it was a fear of many people, I didn't want it to stop me. It was such a
Mm-hmm.
fear for me. I knew someday in my life someone's going to call upon me and I don't want to fail. So I'm going to
Yeah.
practice now. I'm going to practice now and practice now and practice now. So if there's a moment that I'm called upon, I'm ready. And so the question is, does fear stop us or do we dive into it more? Now, on the
Yeah.
book that you mentioned, it's called Pulse Check. It's an acronym, P.U.L.S.E. And Pulse Check is a 5-step coaching framework that we use in healthy leadership. And let me say real quick, I love that you reached out for the show that we're doing today and the conversation, because with this there's so much broken mindsets around leadership. Part of the book is helping us redefine. A lot of the work that I do initially is helping leaders redefine leadership success. And what
Mm-hmm.
that does is that changes the target. It's almost like they were very successful at hitting the wrong target, but it's the popular target that everyone talks about, right? It's a bigger role, it's a nicer office, it's maybe in today's world it's a bigger following, or more likes, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And nothing's necessarily wrong specifically with those. My question is, at the cost of what?
Mm-hmm.
What is the real cost that we're paying? And just having them, that coaching framework and post check, it does a post check. I'll say really quickly, one leader that I looked up to that was a great leader in the role, we had a conversation and I was surprised that he shared with me he couldn't wait to not lead. Like, he couldn't wait to just get out of this and just like it almost felt like a prison for him. And I thought, he's so great at it. Why would he say that? And it was because he never really did what we call a post check. Leadership in today's world and KPIs is really performance based, right? It's the high performer that gets promoted. And what do? We keep in this and we keep performing and performing more and performing more when we forget about purpose and we forget about our intention in life and we forget about the whole part of us, not just the work part of us. So it
Mm-hmm.
really helps the leader. I always tell people at the end of the day, I don't want you to go home and be a better, whatever your role is, fill in the blank. I want you to be a better wife. I want you to be a better husband. I want you to be a better brother or sister. I want you to be a better, I want them to fill all areas of their life in post check, not just work.
But do you know what? It's what is really interesting is like I don't think that I can even define my purpose yet. It's really interesting, like that you brought this conversation up with the things that you do and so on. Do you have your purpose already? Like, do you know what you like? What is your purpose on in the world? Like, have you figured it out already for yourself?
So I think great question, and I think a lot of people really it's a big topic, and I get it, but at the same
Yeah.
time, I feel like in a way, the first thing I always tell people is for one, the minute you think you have it, it changes. It's almost like this, like
Mm,
it's bigger than us, and our purpose is cause for us to keep growing. So
mm-hmm.
the good thing is you have to grow into it, but here's the thing: once you do, you're going to think of something else. And that's
Mm-hmm.
why sometimes it almost feels like this is the one thing in my entire life, Paul Keller. And I say, for now, and it's okay. It's okay. Like we don't, I mean, once again, let's change that thinking. Why do we think we have one purpose? Like
Mm-hmm.
to have a focus right now is great. But once you achieve that, more of the world will open up and you'll see, you know what, I can use that. What was once this big grand mountain I was trying to climb, I realize it's just another plateau and there's more beyond that. So I'd say
Yeah.
right now, when it comes to it, the big picture, Adam, the big picture around why I stuck with leadership development and I really took this avenue within healthy leadership is because in the various roles that I've been in, the people that I've talked to, leadership came at a cost that they couldn't get back things that they sacrifice. Broken
Right.
marriages, close relationships,
Yep.
health challenges that just can't be reversed because they never took a chance to take a walk around the block. It was just
Mm-hmm.
go to first thing in the morning, go straight to work, open up your computer, and they were great at their job, but they never took a moment to just take a walk and exercise a little and just I'm not saying you have to win awards at it, but I'm saying it's important because those things no one else will do for you. The
Mm-hmm.
minute you retire, you finish work, unfortunately they're going to find someone else to fill your role quicker than you can blink.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that might hurt some people, especially those that are thinking I am irreplaceable.
Mm-hmm.
No one is, but there's things in your life that only you can be.
Mm-hmm.
Only you can be certain relationships in your life.
Yep.
So that change eventually starts to happen when you look at purpose. For me, realizing that people spend most of their time at work, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you get older, majority of your time will be spent at work or in business. And what happens is nowadays, most people are, if the work is a unhealthy place or the
Mm-hmm.
business is an unhealthy place, what
Mm-hmm.
do we take home? We take home the worst of us.
Yeah.
We take home
Yeah.
the drained out version.
Mm-hmm.
And this is me. I want to talk about my story a lot of times. I was winning in awards, getting promoted, and everything else in my life was collapsing. And I
Mm-hmm.
go home and I couldn't wait to get back to work because that's where I was winning. But I didn't want to face the parts that was just collapsing, right? And I still had the wrong thinking in that moment. But I start to see that with many others out there. And what happens is if we take the worst of us home, then our home is now unhealthy. And if
Mm-hmm.
we have, think about this now, if we have multiple homes that are unhealthy, now we have communities that are unhealthy,
Yeah.
right? And then it just keeps expanding and we can keep going bigger. So my
Yeah.
seed, my starfish in the ocean that I'm trying to throw out there is just saying if I can help one leader make
Mm-hmm.
that shift into a healthy leadership framework, that team will be a healthy team.
Mhm.
those people will go home in a healthy part of themselves, and that will create healthy homes, healthy communities, and will keep expanding. And when I say
Yeah.
health, I'm not talking about eating apples and walking in the neighborhood, right? We talk about mental health, we talk
Mental
about
health. Yeah.
relational health, right? We talk about spiritual health, we talk about all these different. It's just it's a wholeness of us that at the end of the day, you're more than your work, and that's just
Mhm.
really it.
It's really, you know what is really interesting? Like when you can see most of the people, they don't even think about their lives. They literally live their life on this type of default that, and they still they complaining about their life that sucks, or some like the time spent in work and so on. They don't they can do what they like to do and so on. But why do you think that people are not like literally willing to, or stepping out from that environment programming? Why do you think is they still living this type of way?
I think it starts with, I'd say, probably the biggest broken mindset when it comes to leadership. And that's because people will come and will say, Paul Keller, when I get a team, then I'll start to learn leadership. I'm not a
Mm,
manager right now. I'm
yeah,
not I don't run a business right now. Or if I have a business, it's just me. I don't have employees.
yeah,
Then I'll learn leadership, Paul Keller. And I say, why do we think that someone has to give us a role for us to be the redeem the leader?
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it's if you think about it, leadership is that you're saying I'm going to be responsible for other people. Well, what about responsibility of ourselves?
Hmm.
Like the minute we take responsibility of ourselves, just like you're saying, the minute we say, because a lot of times it's, well, my boss didn't do this, and now I do get, let me pause, I do understand the constraints and the challenges it'll create if you're
Yeah,
working under someone that doesn't share your same value system.
yeah.
But at the same, it's still our choice to give in to that or to seek something that aligns with that. And it always
Hmm.
starts. The P in the post-check framework stands for protect your priorities. And
Hmm.
I have a workshop that we do to help people identify what is that. You know, it amazes me. We've become so just a default system that doesn't even think about that anymore. I say 80 to 90% of the people that I first started to work with really started to look at me and they said their question is, no one ever asked me my priorities or values. I want to make sure that this job pays for this life. And that's it. I'll learn the job. Tell me what it is. I'll learn the job. But if this job pays for this life or this business pays for this lifestyle, I'll do it. I don't care what it makes me. And that's the thing is, I just spoke at a career day at my elementary school that I graduated from, and I shared with the kids really quickly. You might be many different roles in life. Just make sure none of those roles make you become someone that you're not.
My gosh, so big. Because yeah, most of the people are literally living somebody else's like descriptions or life. Basically, they didn't even choose to live. It's
Yeah, I
so
imagine.
crazy, so crazy. But yeah, this is like so. I I know that because you mentioned that you basically are you, or do I mixing it up? Are you doing some like presentations? Like, do you do public speaking also?
Yep, we do.
You
So
do.
I have a public speaking leg, I guess, that we do we for conferences. That's a little
Uh-huh.
different. A lot of our approach is really specific for the audience. So we have the
Yeah.
topics, and then I will package it different on the audience that's there, right? So we have
Right.
our conference package. We have a workshop series that we're actually helping them integrate and implement a
Yeah.
lot of the principles that we have, and then we have one-on-one coaching that I work with some
Right.
people, and
Okay.
it's really up to them. You know, some people work differently in different formats.
Yeah. Yeah. So when it comes to public speaking, how did you get into public speaking? Because like this is pretty like this is something that people are super afraid of. Even doing it. It's I've read somewhere it's one of the scariest profession to actually do or something like that. How like how did you get into that? And like, because with the background, the way like and probably this is not just you, but most of the people, like with the doubts and all of like caring about other people's opinions and so on. Like, how did you get into public speaking and being able to just like show up, do the thing, and like being confident and comfortable in doing
I think it was first my approach to fear. I didn't like being afraid of
it?
things. You know, I
Yeah.
didn't like it. I don't know. I just, I guess in that fear, in that shaking, I had to try. I didn't
Right.
like to feel restricted with fear.
Uh-huh.
So when I would be afraid of, speaking,
Uh-huh.
more so what drove me was seeing people that were much smarter than me, Adam, I'll be honest, but they were afraid. And I seen the
Yeah.
information they had, and I thought people need to know that. Like
Mm-hmm.
people, but it did no help because they couldn't share it.
Mm-hmm.
So my first was almost like, I guess, a co-speaking when I was young in
Wow. Okay.
elementary, where I would bring them and I would ask them questions similar to what we're doing here,
Yeah.
but I'm trying to give them a voice,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But it helps them. It lowers, I guess, it makes them more confident. It lowers their fear
Mm-hmm.
component when they're not the only one there. When I'm there
Right.
having a conversation with them, they're allowed to now share the intelligence that they have, which would serve the
Mm-hmm.
audience. So I'm trying to be this connector where I'm trying to face fear.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get someone that has something great that they discovered and share it with those that are looking at it. And that was, I guess, the initial component with speaking. You know what's interesting now? I had a class that I'll never forget, and it really helped me with free writing. And
Uh-huh.
till this day, I'll still free write every single morning, at least 2 minutes. I wake up in the morning and I just start writing. I don't have a topic. I don't overthink it. I'm processing my thoughts openly. And I tell people a lot of times speaking has a direct connection with our thinking. But if our
Uh-huh.
thoughts are all over the place, then our words are going to be all over the place also. So the more
Right.
we can organize and process our thoughts, the clearer we start to speak. And we
Mm.
don't feel like we have to fill them in so much because we've written them, we've read them, we've seen them. And it's a constant. So I use that in a way to, free write to get our thoughts organized at first. And then after that, going ahead and just communicating out there. And I'd say this for those of you that are looking at a hard ROI, if you're listening in, leadership skills and public speaking are the highest transferable skills throughout every industry.
Mm.
Every industry will always be capped at the skill level of that industry, what it takes. And those that excel beyond that is because of their leadership skills or their communication or public speaking skills. So it's something
Right.
that no matter where you go, the value will continue to increase.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's so yeah, and like especially in this in the world where we live right now, right? With AI, basically, the thing is like you literally need the only thing that you basically need to be able to produce really great results with AI and like getting the information that you need is clear public speaking, like really like so it actually understand, because most people they don't even know how to formulate the words properly so they're gonna give you the correct answers, right? So the
Mhm.
communication is going to be anyway the highest paying skill to have, like overall, right? And
Mhm.
it's been already like for so many years, right? Like it's so funny, like people when we see right now, I just been like seeing this the reel from Dan Martel or somebody, yeah, I think Dan
Mhm.
Martel, and he was talking that people are like, especially now they are like AI is the next it's the tool that's gonna make you a millionaire. What is your thoughts on that? You know what I
For
mean?
AI, I say anything innovative. I'm always open to innovation and learning. I think it's
Yeah,
it's a magnificent part of our human nature. We always
yeah,
can look at something and see how we can make it better. But
yeah,
but what is also consistent, if you look at throughout the many generations, is that right now what I'm already seeing, and I think it will only amplify, is
yeah,
that technology is there to support you with many different tasks, right? Let's
yeah,
just go back. It's the calculator. right? Before, when we first discovered the calculator, it's like,
It's a
don't,
tool, right? It's a
it's a
tool that
tool.
is
It's
like
a tool.
it's freaking tool. It's not some magic thing that's gonna solve all the problems. It's literally a tool that's
It's a
going
tool.
to enhance your skills. That's going
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
enhance you as a human, who you are, and how you can deliver speed, quality, and all of that. Right? People are crazy if they think that AI is gonna be the thing that are going to make them millionaire. Like what the heck?
And I say this, Adam. I think, to credit your show, if your thinking is still brainwashed to be broke financially, you can have the best tool and you'll still find a way to be broke. You can make all the millions and you'll still find a way to get rid of it right away because
Yeah.
you never fixed what was the core part of actually. So I tell people, like, if you look at great investors, they're very different thinkers. They don't think the same as everyone else when it comes to finances, right? So when it comes to leadership, same thing. It's like you can get the role of a leader, CEO this, founder this, you can win awards and everything else. But if you still think of leadership differently, you're going to use that tool to damage other parts of your life.
Yeah.
And that's my high caution with it, is like you can't skip this part. This part is for those that are in it for the long game. I really believe AI will only increase the need for real people skills. People can
Hmm.
already tell when something is AI filled, and it's okay at certain times.
Yeah.
But when you want to talk to a real person on the phone that knows how to hold a difficult conversation, you're going to want that person with a skill set that can hold a difficult conversation, that has a
Yeah.
high emotional intelligence. And that's where people that are investing in that now will shine.
Yeah, yeah, I love it because this is like it's freaking this concept like of course like AI is so hot topic now, like everybody talks about it and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just like, and so funny is like everybody's even like claiming, yeah, I'm the AI expert. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about, guys? Like I yeah, it's fine, like do whatever you need, but like, anyway.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, in a fun, it's like I'm the calculator expert, and the thing is, and and I'm not, and it's not to knock on anyone, but it's in a way, it's those that skip that process, and then that's why it's like, I guess a lot of our framework is what is the seeds you're planting now. You go for
Yeah.
those skills, but at the same time, character development and the renewing of our mind, like thinking of finances differently, thinking of leadership differently, thinking of business differently. I don't know if you want to open this up, but I tell people one of the big misconceptions is people think that a great business is always built by a great leader, and they're very different
Mm.
things. They're very different things.
Okay, tell me about that.
So in short, I'd say, to run a great business, all you got to do is stay in the green. All you got to do is make more profit at the end of the day, right? So it's really if you just eliminate. Let's just be a little creative here. Let's eliminate character, integrity. Let's eliminate taking care of people. Let's eliminate the team winning. Let's just say all of that don't matter. Just making profit. Can you run a good business? The short answer is absolutely.
Mm.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of great businesses that don't care anything about people. They'll actually burn people to get a great
Yeah.
business, and then and
Yep.
then they'll flip it. They'll close it and do another business.
Mm-hmm.
So why I say that is because sometimes people chase or model business success thinking that that's leadership development. And what we do
Wow.
is we kind of flatten the hierarchy curve,
Yep.
saying it has nothing to do with a great business.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes the greatest leader I see in a team is the person that doesn't have a voice yet. I'll jump into a
Ooh.
meeting and I'll see and I'll I'll observe, and we'll do like a discovery day. People call it different things, but basically I'm sitting in their meetings and I'm doing live observation of what's going on. And you'll see that sometimes the people in the leadership roles are just because they allowed leadership to be comfortable for those
Mm.
above them.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't disagree. It's a yes mentality, and it's comfortable. The thing is, when it's comfortable, there's no growth, there's no impact, and we're learning from a generation that's entering the workforce that they're asking you, what does this mean in the long run? Like, they want to be part of something real, something big. That's the question they're
Mm-hmm.
asking.
This is really cool. Very interesting. Do you have kids, actually?
I have four great kids. Yes.
Yeah, 4 kids. Wow. How does it like I don't know how old they are, but
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to the future and um, the
Mm-hmm.
difference, how the difference is how you teach them from how you've been taught. I'm really curious about like what you do differently than the older generation they actually did to like with us.
Mm-hmm. I think the first thing that comes to mind, I think, thank you for that question. I think that's another part is like when someone is interested in me beyond the role that I do, they ask questions about my faith, about me as a dad. I appreciate that. So thank you for, just
Thanks.
opening that part
Oh,
of the
totally.
conversation.
Yeah.
I'd say when it comes to, your question about what I share with them now, I think the first thing pops to mind really, Adam, is that I really encourage them to think and to learn how they think, not to tell them what to think, to
Mm,
process their thoughts. I think we're told what to think. That's where the whole brainwashing comes, right?
yeah.
We're not
Yeah.
given an option. It's saying this, and then you just. But at the same, when you learn how you think, you learn critical thinking. You learn how to process
Yeah.
information.
Hmm.
And I mean, I'm not trying to get, I don't know the stats on this, but I once heard it said that we're the only creature that can think of our thoughts. Like
Yeah.
animals, and then, someone out there that might be more educated in this might find an animal that can do the same. But I think you know where I'm going with this is like if
Hmm.
we're one of the only creations that can think of our thoughts, yet we don't do that, what are we doing? Like
Yeah.
we're taking something that's so unique, and we should always be reflecting and thinking about, huh, why did that cause me to be afraid? It was just a phone. I just needed to pick up a phone call. Why was I so afraid of that phone call?
Yeah.
It was the I imagined being rejected, and then being rejected made me feel, actually built on my small seed of insecurity that feels like I'm not smart, because
Yeah.
that one rejection was a vote in the wrong ballot for me. But why? What made me? And just going through that, I think the bigger we grow, why we should try and build big things and have purpose, is that it causes us to dig deep. Now, the next thing, I think
Hmm.
I'm going off on the tangent. I promise you I'll come back. But the topic of fatherhood is there's so much lessons in it. I'd say one of the things with fatherhood and a parent is when it comes to leadership is Kenneth Blanchard wrote it in his early books where he said different strokes for different folks. And if I expound on that a little, a lot of assessments are out there today. Strength Finder, DISC, Myers Briggs, Theta Core. There's a bunch of different, and though I see the value in it, I always tell people I find organizations that have started assessments. Eventually, they have everyone with this myopic view of, hey, I'm a blue, I'm looking for blue. I don't do
Yeah.
that because I'm not an orange. I don't, and we use that almost as a way to separate us as a team.
Hmm. Hmm.
And the L in post check is for leadership style. And it's because the biggest question I had in the beginning was, Paul Keller, what's the best leadership style? And a lot of it, people wanted to just model. It's like, hey, can I copy what is the best? Tell me what is the best leadership style, Paul Keller, and I'll copy it. And my answer is the best leadership style is the true you.
Ooh.
You can't get away
Yeah.
from actually diving into saying, who am I? And here's the thing is, once we understand us, we're going to understand our gaps, our limits, which makes us lean on others. So a lot of
Hmm.
people feel like, well, I don't do numbers well. That's okay. But a great leader will find others that will cover their blind spots.
Right.
And
Right.
if they're a true leader, then you'll have a bunch of people taking responsibility, not trying to overshadow each other, but taking responsibility for what they are skilled to do.
Oh yeah.
And
Do
that's not authentic leadership. People don't care for you to
yeah.
be right all the time. Craig Rochelle says they just want you to be real.
I love it. Do you know what this is really interesting because like recently, I don't know, like a couple of days ago, I think, or it was yesterday. I don't know. A couple of days ago, I literally, I think this is for me would be good use of
Hmm.
AI. I
Well,
literally went to AI and told it to interview me and find like for example some missing pieces that I'm like missing on my own and what it actually could help me to improve myself and like use it as a leverage for me to to literally move me further,
Mm,
like with what I'm missing, or why I'm not doing certain things that I supposed to do, why I'm not doing. So I literally tell it to like, basically interview me, and I like share everything that I could, like every thought. It gave me like bunch of questions, and then it started giving me answers that I was like, oh my gosh, I never ever think about it. And now I'm using those things to actually like, okay, so this is why I don't want to do this thing. Okay, I'm gonna change it. I'm gonna try to do something to against this, to actually like push me out, out of the comfort zone, and I actually do those things, because like now I can talk to my head, talk to myself based on what I've never thought about before, right? So I think like this is really cool, because like what you said with with uh the way that we basically, like how we basically cannot see everything what is like necessary for like for ourselves, like to actually be the best version of us, and or like trying to like do those
mm,
things. So anyway, this is really cool. And like when it comes to, so okay, but let's go back to your,
mm.
to the parent parentship. Is
Yeah,
that the
yep.
word?
The
Yeah,
fatherhood.
let's go. Yeah, fatherhood. Let's go there for a second. Would
Okay.
you like, do you actually, because what I saw, for example, from my girlfriend's family side, like she has a brother, and he's basically going to school, and they are still teaching him in school like freaking how to how to do PowerPoint slides
Yeah.
manually, and this type of thing. So like how actually your observation, and like the way that you like leading your kids, even like when it comes to like be prepared for the world, like what is going to be happening, or do you like how actually look like when it comes to
Mm,
um
mm,
yeah, as I said, like how is it different from the way that you've been raised, and like how you what you're trying to do for like, with your kids and so on, like to get them on the best path ever for them, like to succeed in their life and so on. And also like I would be really interested, what is actually success mean to you? Like what is actually like a success when
mm.
it comes to you personally, uh look like for you?
Awesome. Okay, so let me answer that first one with the fatherhood.
Uh-huh.
Different, I guess, and then let me write this down here. Success mean. I'll close the thought with that I was mentioning with the assessments, and I'll answer. It's going to tie right into fatherhood. So I mentioned
Sure.
assessments because when it comes to leadership, one thing that I'm sharing with my children, and I mentioned that component about Kenneth Blanchard, different strokes for different folks. A lot of leaders, when they get into a leadership, they understand their assessment or their profile. I see this a lot in organizations. I say, what are they doing for leadership development or mentorship? And what they're doing is they're basically having the current leader mentor the upcoming leader. And the challenge with that, with all good intention, is that that leader is just going to tell that person that's coming, that they're pouring into, how they did it,
All
right?
right.
So the other leader feels like I have to be this person in order to be a leader. And that's where a
Mm,
lot of people feel like they get this, they only get one view, one assessment,
yeah.
one lane of what they think is a successful leader. What needs to happen, and when we get a chance to do this, this is where the organization starts to thrive, is
Mm,
that the mentor or the person that's training is more, now I know what is my strengths. How do I know how
mhm.
to spot all the different strengths, work with all different people, and let them rise up to where they're great?
Yeah.
Does that make any, so that's why it's like, that's why it shifts from different strokes for different folks. Now, how that
Yeah.
relates to a fatherhood is, one of my child might have a different, I mean, every single one of them has a different drives, different
Yep.
value systems, different, and a
Mhm.
lot of it lines with the home, that what we're doing, because we have
Mhm.
values in our home. But still, they're going to have a different personality. They're going to have a different temperament, different behavior patterns, and they should. I want them to know that it's okay for that. And the reason is because if we don't say it's okay, then they hide it, right? And
Mm,
nothing
mhm.
great grows in the dark. So we need
Yeah.
to
I've
open
been
it
I've
up.
been I've been raised in that environment, like hiding it,
Yeah.
actually. No, yeah,
So,
you know,
so with the fatherhood component, I'd say, I guess one of the things that we try to do differently, as I learn, is I think there's much more options in the world. When I
yeah,
was raised, it was pretty much like almost like everyone strived to be in the union, a union worker, and just, it was hard workers. But a lot
yeah.
of times it was this belief that business wasn't for me. And here's one tip I always share with my kids, and it's whatever you do in life. If they might choose college, they might choose, getting a job right out of high school. They might choose trade work. They might choose tech. They might choose, starting their business. I want to support every single one, but I say no matter where you are, eventually you want to learn the business side of that, whatever it is.
Mm.
You want to learn start to ask the questions. If
And
of
why,
how
why, why
how do I
they,
get
why?
paid? Like, yeah, how does overhead come in, and how much sales need to come in to pay the whole department, and
Okay, I
how do
get
we
it. Okay, okay.
get work? Like, how do we get
Yeah,
work, right? And the more you start to understand how the business operates, how does the light stays on? How do we get this
yeah,
benefit package? The more you understand the business side of it, that's gonna empower you, no matter what you do, to
yeah,
really see things on that bigger picture.
yeah.
And now you get an honest chance to say, yes, I want to do business, or no, I don't want to, that's not for me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't think
Mm-hmm.
everyone needs to be an entrepreneur, but I do think that those that fit it, like one, let me say this because this is a big pet peeve of mine, I'd say. Those that are running business, I see what you've done in this time, but the amount of episodes that you've put out there. I had a podcast at a certain time too, so I have a great respect for podcasters, Adam, and just knowing the work involved and, putting these together and getting them out there in these messages. I really appreciate you hosting this conversation, honestly. And when I see that, I know it's not easy. So a lot of people look at and they try to sell entrepreneurship like, hey, this is so easy. I don't have to work all these hours. And I'm like, what do you like? This is the hardest thing you're gonna do yet the most fulfilling. And
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it'll be the most,
True.
but it's gonna test you.
Yeah,
It's gonna test you so much. So it's how, once again, how we approach hard things. How do we approach things that make us afraid? How do we approach failure? How do we approach hard things in life that challenge us? I think that's one conversation I try to have with them a lot of times. Just let them have these open conversations. And I think the biggest thing is also how we see money, how we see finances. And we draw a
totally.
lot of those from
Yeah,
our Bible study time that we have with them.
I love it. Yeah, yeah. To the topic, back to the topic when you said like that, not like not everybody, but like has like should be an entrepreneur, but people who going to people who succeed even though in like or not like it depends like who how you're going to define success and so on like but people who going to get the best positions in the firm or
Hmm.
anywhere or like even like and succeed in business most of the time they develop skills that are actually like entrepreneurial skills because even though if you going to be working in corporate those corporate basically those companies are are basically built by entrepreneur and they
Hmm.
value people who are entrepreneurs
Hmm.
because this is how they who they are and like you're gonna get way more opportunities even though you're not gonna go straight up to entrepreneurship but you're gonna get way more opportunities to think and do things like an entrepreneur inside of the like firm or something like being employed like
Hmm.
literally because the person the employer basically will see you completely like a different person from other people because you can see from other people or what they like I can see in like 5 minutes of talk what the person is all about if he knows what he's talking about or not, right? And like I've been working in corporate before, like not full time, but I will still like when I've been in the period that I couldn't afford. Like I've been basically studying all those things. Nobody taught me how, and so on. Like been figuring it out. I've been literally like talking with the owner about business things, like literally what is the revenue, like what is going, like where is the biggest profit coming, like, and all of those things, they never experience that with anybody else, which is like insane to me, because like I'm so curious about like how money works, how to make money, how like this is like the world is about money, how you can not be curious about money, like what the heck are you doing, like, you know what I mean?
Oh, that's so well said. And you're helping me remember a moment I want to share with you real quick. I'll be really quick with this. Where,
No,
you
good.
know, I never, I'd say as a child, I probably had thoughts, seeing my dad and my uncles were tradesmen, working in construction, and great hard workers. So I grew up with just this mentality, understanding like if you want something, you're going to work hard at it, and
Yeah.
it was the standard. But at the same time, there is only so much you can do with by yourself,
Mm-hmm.
right? So in business, learning the leverage of business, how others can go ahead and continue to grow. Um, One of my first assignments as a coach must have been about 18 years ago when I went ahead and we were working with a company, a consulting company that was really helping turnaround companies, turnaround organizations that they were about to close. We'd come in and we would have to turn everything around. One of the toughest coaching assignments I've ever had. Learned so much in that process. To turn a company around that's pretty much closing the doors. People don't understand how difficult that is. But what it did was it really taught me a lot of, they had signs, they had reports, they had indicators that was telling them that they were going in that direction, but they ignored it for a long time, right? They brushed
Mm-hmm.
it under the rug. They, there's a sweet spot. You don't want to be just positive thinking. You don't want to be just negative thinking. You want to
Yeah.
look at things for what it is, right? You want to
Mm-hmm.
look at like what is really going on, and you want to be okay with that. Not have that. Not let that have hijack your emotions,
Yeah.
but willing to say, give me the good news and give me the bad news. When I want to see it all. They only wanted to see the good news, and eventually, what happened is we would have to come in. And Adam, I'm young, in my young 20s. I'm having to sit across to the table of people that put in 25, 28 years into this company, and we have to let them go, and it breaks my heart. Like I'm thinking, I can't, I don't know if I want to do this, Like
Mm-hmm.
it was the toughest part. You have to let them go, and you're seeing them having to find. They've committed their entire life to this organization. And one of the things that stood out as we went through that, and we had a way, those that are listening, that that to help them transition. But still, no matter how much you transition it, it's not an easy conversation. It's not an easy thing to look at. Now, the people that are having to deal with this and carry this weight, they showed up every day faithful, coming to work, working hard, doing their job well. But those that were leading the organization didn't want to look at things, they were too hopeful, I guess, in a sense. They didn't
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
fix what was really going on. Why share with one of the things that stuck with me coming out of that is really realizing that can happen to any one of us. Whether I'm not here to
Yep.
discuss if that's right or wrong. It's more like that's the reality in today's world. Like
Yeah.
you can work for someone else for 20 plus, 30 plus years, and that can change quick. So to your point, learning entrepreneurial skills will always serve you no matter what. There's times I went through seasons that's like, you know what, contracts are slowing down. I'm going to go ahead and, and I've always had that business part that would keep that business running. What are we doing to feed into that business? Because that's my retirement plan. That's the long thing. I love what I get to do. I don't see myself ever stopping it. I'm always going to love talking about leadership, talking about business, talking about impact. But at the same, there might be a time that I'm not having to wake up and drive it every single morning, right? But I love the work. But knowing that I'm building something that isn't at the expense of someone else saying, we're done,
Yeah.
right? We get a chance to take that in as entrepreneurs. And I think that's something that, why I say it's not for everyone, I think that needs to be a personal decision in my experience. I've seen people that
Yeah.
try to follow the trend and follow the hype online. And if their thinking is still the wrong way of thinking, it's not helpful as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, no, most people trying to get into entrepreneurship to just make money, right? And like getting the result as fast as they can. But the thing, like, or tomorrow. and
Right, right.
and that's not how it works, right? Like this
Yeah.
is not like we can talk about it because like we've been in entrepreneurship for long enough. um and
Mhm.
for especially you, like freaking hell, 18 years, holy smokes, or more than that. And like it's if you're going to be financially free, when they say that financial freedom like you know it should be fast or something, like I'm just like trying to I remember um the saying that I don't know who said it, if that was Myron Golden or somebody. Yeah,
Mhm.
you should try to do, like, you should try to get rich as soon as you can. And what I mean by
Mhm.
that, in your lifetime. You know what I mean? That's
Right.
basically it. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
if you do not take basically failure as a
Mm.
failure and then just like a feedback, and then you keep adjusting and staying in the game long enough, that is, for me, there is no way you can basically lose. Like, there is no way you can lose unless you give up.
And I used to give up, and I'd say I love what you're saying, and what comes to mind is we all think we're gonna be a certain way when we make so much money, whatever that money
Yeah,
is for everyone, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
it amazes me, and I think it's a good lesson to learn that you should make that amount because that's the way that you're gonna test how that changes you, right? Who we are if we faithful with many, faithful with little, right? Faithful with much, faithful with
I
little.
love it. Yeah,
If having all this money, so you'll never see something from me, and this is, I don't know if you'll never see a financial claim from me on social, because I don't do, because I am driven by it. I do want to run. I have big goals with it financially, but at the same, that has nothing to do with my identity. That has
yeah,
nothing to do with my worthiness. Like, I don't want that to change who I am, how I show up. There's times, I'll be honest, and that's why I mean, in real entrepreneurship, I can have my highest revenue in one day, and then I can come ahead and have absolutely nothing, Adam, and be walking
mm,
into a meeting and have invoices that aren't paid, and have, and you just see, and you're looking at the red, and when you can understand that level of emotional maturity and still being able to say, I'm not gonna fight for this sale because I need it. I'm still gonna serve this person because I'm gonna stay true to my character, not because I wanna hit my revenue line and
yep,
turn it around. You know, that's why I think that's the true sustaining value of making a lot of money, because you'll get a chance to honestly see, does it change me? They say, if you
yeah,
want to see the true character of a man, give him power.
yeah,
And sometimes money makes people feel very powerful right off the bat. Now, I think it's a fine line. Yes, drive and for everything that you can, make all the money you can, but also notice what that does to who you are. Because even I
yeah,
thought, I would never do that. And I started to get, you have these thoughts. You get, well, I don't need
yeah,
to do this now because I make this money and I deserve this and I deserve that. And it just caused me to dig a little deeper because I needed more healing to do. I'll say
yeah,
this really quickly, I think is relevant. Every ceiling that we meet as a leader will reveal deeper healing. And I'm a big
mm,
proponent of it because I never thought I needed so much healing. But the more I was given to carry responsibility, the more I had to dig my feet in the sand and actually heal from things that I was like, I didn't realize that triggered me before. And then there's a peace and contentment that come over our leadership that we can actually serve people regardless of what the financial reports say.
yeah, yeah. I love it. Yeah, money do not define us, right? Money is just it's just another tool, basically, right? Money is
Mm-hmm.
like, but money is amplifier of us.
Mm-hmm.
So if you
Mm-hmm.
are dick without money, you're gonna be even bigger idiot with money, right? That's
Love
how
it.
it is, but that's how it is. And I can see it in like literally in every, like in many areas of our life, because like there are people that I know that completely, like, I know them from, they had none and now they have more than enough, and they just do things that I have never thought that they would be doing that
Right.
badly. But I know him like a person that he was like literally like. But anyway, you can like anyway, it is what it is, right? But well, thank you so much. Thank you for your time. It was a pleasure to have you here for like 100%. When it comes to your future, like when it comes to where you are heading, like where you can see yourself in like your personal life and business life, like where you're going with all your with the business and life. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's two parts that we're doing. We're working on, and I'll share with everyone here. We're working on building a nonprofit format to serve in that component. A lot of the people we
Mhm.
work with, organizations, aren't able to work with us because of just the levels that we have on our packages, right? So we're putting together a nonprofit component with that, and that'll serve schools and youth for education, those that are upcoming in that
That's really
component.
cool. Love it.
Um, that's always something that's near to my heart. The next component is actually starting to scale. We have a small team of trainers and facilitators that I currently work with. We've identified, and the next scale is to actually magnify that to a much larger scale. So there's much more people that are doing what we're doing. I have my limits. I can only reach so many people. I can only be in so many places. But I'm going ahead and growing the chief dev leadership is the company and growing that beyond. So that way it can reach further by having more trainers out there. The next part is we have the beginnings of a children's book and the next book that we're doing here that we're talking all about integration. So that'll be coming out. The children's book is coming out at the end of this year. I'm the president of a board for
We'll
a
we'll
local.
do another episode.
Yeah, yeah, that'll be really, we're really taking the post-check framework and we're putting it into a children's story so they can start to understand these healthy pillars and they can start implementing that at their young age. But the next book that we're doing for our business quadrant is really about integration. I think a lot of today's world that I see when I work with people is great, shining all-stars winning by themselves. And when
Love
we
it.
start to
Yeah.
see we're missing the integration component. So we'll be speaking
Mhm.
into that. But
Very cool.
thank you, Adam, for this time. I got a question for you. Where do you see, with all the success you had with the podcast here, I see a lot of amazing guests. I'm really honored to be part of that circle, a small portion of it. But where do you see the podcast going? I know there's a lot of challenge and passion with podcasting, but at the same time, it's such a great way to get people's message out and get conversations going in this.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. Where do you see the podcast going?
Well, where I see the podcast, well, I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing. I loving this conversation, and like interviewing more and more people, and for sure, like I'm trying to get even bigger and bigger names on the podcast, so it's like getting more and more views and so on, because I believe that those conversations are really really valuable, and they just need more views. So I'm gonna be thinking of like of course everybody who is here and who is listening and who has the opportunity to listen this, we are not promoting this podcast pretty much at all. Like I'm just like using it to cross post on all social media. There is no pay ads or anything like that, and the only way how we can grow this show is literally like by you sharing it word of mouth and so on. So I would
Mhm.
appreciate everybody who's listening to actually share the show and leave a review, leave a comment basically, and hopefully you're getting ton of from it. But yeah, that's basically what but more views I can get more people, better people on the show, and that's like it reaches more people and we can do a better bigger impact and so on and change the world, because that's the whole purpose, right?
Right.
So I'm just, yeah, so pumped to have you here and having this conversation. And yeah, so for now, I'll leave it that way, and we will see you guys for the next episode. All right, bye for now.